The way I see it, the Star Wars sequel trilogy was an emotional roller coaster. It had its great moments and it had its bad moments that really kept fans on edge and very much engaged with the movies, either negatively or positively in certain scenarios, that really left a lot of fans dissatisfied, all in the end when Episode 9 came to a close. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, J.J. Abrams, alright, we know that he created The Force Awakens, refused to come back for Episode 8, and agreed to come back to save Episode 9. After Colin Trevorrow was fired, of course. Who else could they really get? So they ran to J.J., they got his help, they begged him to come back, he eventually did. And well, there were a lot of things that J.J. Abrams really did not agree with when it came to what Kathleen Kennedy was pressing on him and pushing him to do. Now, we already know that J.J. has been a lot more talkative most recently because he does not want to come back to Star Wars, so he's got nothing to lose. So he's just putting out honest and truthful thoughts out there about how he felt about the sequel trilogy. And there's one thing that he really pointed out, that he is likely calling, of course, the biggest plot hole in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and it most likely is something that a lot of fans will agree on, and we're going to be tapping into all of this about what JJ has to say about what he is calling the biggest plot hole in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Of course, apart from, any of the others that we talked about most recently about 3 months ago. However, on top of this, alright, J.J. Abrams, we already know that he's heavily involved with a lot of great things. Aside from Star Wars, he's trying to do a lot of different projects. However, with J.J. Abrams recently becoming more vocal about his feelings toward the sequels and how Disney treated them over the years, J.J. was able to engage in an interview where he was being, of course, questioned about his past working on the sequels, and went on to call out and expose what he calls the biggest plot hole in the Star Wars sequels that he wasn't allowed to fix. JJ went on to state the following to fans. Well, when we released The Force Awakens, I set things up for Luke's temple and the new Jedi Order, but the one major issue I had with Ryan was that what he did, of course, to plan out for Luke's Jedi Order. You see, in The Last Jedi, in that film, Luke states that Kylo vanished with a handful of his students and slaughtered the rest. We never learned what happened to those that actually vanished with Kylo, and I wanted to explain all of that in Rise of Skywalker, but Kennedy insisted that we do not explore that side of the story and to let the fans forget about all of that. Now, let me just pause here for a second. Now, JJ later is going to point out something very crucial to all of this that some of you may debate right now. Some of you may be saying, well, the students that left or vanished with Kylo became the Knights of Ren, right? Actually, that's not the case. If you guys have read the Rise of Kylo Ren comics, it vividly explores that the Knights of Ren existed for a very long time, well before Luke Skywalker's students got slaughtered and vanished with Kylo, supposedly. So the Knights have been in existence for a very long time under the leadership of the character known simply as Ren. Ren is eventually killed off by Ben Solo, where Ben Solo takes the moniker or the name, whatever have you, and dubbing himself as Kylo Ren. Now, in this scenario, J.J. Abrams was very much having an annoyance with Kathleen Kennedy for not allowing him to fix this supposed quote-unquote plot hole that was created in The Last Jedi that was not able to be fixed in Episode 9. And you know what? It is a very interesting point. What in the world happened to the students that Luke calls vanished with Kylo Ren and slaughtered the rest? So some of those students vanished with Kylo Ren, indicating that there were a handful of students that believed in Ben Solo's beliefs, or his overall structure of beliefs. Now, that's why it kind of, led fans to be a little misunderstood about what happened with the Jedi students, making them believe that they turned into the Knights of Ren when that was really not the case. And J.J. Abrams goes on to explain more about this. Alright, so He goes on to say, the canon comics for the rise of Kylo Ren made it clearer that the Knights of Ren were a pre-existing group. I was the one who approved that. They existed well before the tragedy of Luke's temple. So the biggest plot hole to me is what happened to Luke's students that Kylo took and vanished with. I wanted to tell that story in 9. I was so eager to set things up and straight for fans, but Kathy and I had creative differences on how it should be established. I actually had this whole flashback scene all written out for this script, in which it would tell a tale of what happened to all of them. What upsets me is not even the comics explains what happened to Luke's other students that vanished with Ben Solo, nor does it even acknowledge that. Fans were led to believe that those that vanished with Kylo became the Knights. That is false. So there you have it. I mean, J.J. Abrams really putting it out there that they did not become the Knights of Ren, and it already is vividly made clear in the comics. You don't have to actually listen to anything, you can actually see what actually happens. Now, sure, in the comics, it shows Ben Solo destroying each Jedi student one by one. It does not show him necessarily leaving with a handful as indicated in The Last Jedi. That, you know, in the way that Luke actually put it, so to speak. So there is a big inconsistency in the sequels where you don't really get to see or even get to learn about what happened to those students that supposedly left or vanished with Kylo Ren. This comes right out of Luke Skywalker's dialogue, right? He vanished with a handful of my students and slaughtered the rest. His exact words. And in the beginning, you know, we all thought that the ones that vanished became the Knights of Ren. And that is not the case. Because in the comics, like I said before, they were already a pre-existing group. So what I think is really happening here is this. Alright? Now, obviously J.J. Abrams wanted to explore a lot about this in Episode 9. Kathy did not want to explore that. And there was a reason why. What that reason is, we're not quite sure. But nonetheless, it was indeed JJ who approved the Rise of Kylo Ren comics to make it clear that they did not become the Knights of Ren, because he never wanted that story to be told. So, it is a very interesting turn of events, because there is now a big mystery that needs to be told of what happened to Luke's Jedi students. By the way, this could very well set great things up for the future if they need to, or if they want to, and create a different storyline that could very well tap into all of that. Now, as you all know, J.J. Abrams has been calling out more, flaws or problems with the sequel trilogy, and this by far is probably one of the bigger ones and the more forgotten plot holes in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Some of you guys may think it's not a plot hole, and that's fine. I, however, do agree with JJ that it is, and that Luke Skywalker's Jedi students that vanished, and how they were not the Knights of Ren, it really does create a lot of confusion. So, overall, I would really, really love to hear what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.